Have you ever had something that you were failing to tie, that whether that be a wrapped gift or, a tent line, you're setting up a tent? Well, according to Robert Castian, the knowledge of knots, shapes, and action, as a part of the Shapes of Things series of lectures, the average person routinely fails to solve problems because they simply lack knot repertoire. With that being said, today I'm going to teach you 3 knots. I will teach you the square knot, the bowline, and the taut line hedge. So, stepping over here, we will start with the square knot. The square knot is a very, very simple knot. It is simply 2 ends of rope that creates 2 overhand knots. So, starting, you just go one over the other to make 1 overhand knot, and then you just take the end from here, match it up with the other end on this side, and then grab your other end of rope and wrap it back through to create this knot that does look kind of like a square. You can see both sides of it there are symmetrical. This is an incredibly simple knot. According to Cyrus Day in Knots and Knot Lore, as a part of the Western folklore series that was done, there was a study in 1917 that involved chimpanzee nests, where essentially what they had done is taken apart the nest and they were looking for nest construction in knots, essentially, in this nest. Within that study, they found that within this nest, there were no less than 3 properly tied square knots. The square knot, essentially, is just an incredibly simple knot. We don't even know where it comes from. It's so natural that a chimpanzee can tie it by accident, creating a nest. However, that's the square knot, incredibly simple knot. There's not much to it here. I will just tie it again for you real quickly. That is the square knot. You could use this for, wrapping around something, or, if you had 2 ends of rope, you just take 2 ends of rope, do the same thing. That is your square knot. The next knot I have for you is the bowline. The bowline is a far more recent knot in the form that I will show you today. It comes from the Inuit people in about about the 1700s. And that is according to Cyrus Day in Knots and Knot Lore as a part of the Western folklore series. But it is also an incredibly simple knot. So you have your 2 ends of rope. You're going to need some slack. So you're going to make a little loop all the way up here. This line, it can be as long as you possibly wanted it to. But essentially, you're just going to take your rope. You're going to bring it around and up through. So you can see here's your main rope that leads around and up through. After it's through, you're going to go around your main rope up this way to leave you with this. And then you will take this end of rope back down through. And then you want to pull that. I'm going to just restart this one. But, this is not the world's finest knot tying rope, and it is just to show it's a learning process for everyone, even me who's tied these hundreds of times. But essentially, around here, and then you can hold this, then you can pull on your main line. I'm messing this up all sorts of ways. So here, that's right. This is your starting point. Go here, up through, go around like that, and then back through here. And that is your bowline. Tie it. All the tags there. And essentially what this does is it just creates a loop on the end of the length of rope that you could use to, you'd have stick through here, you're tied off with it essentially. That way you have a secure point to tying things. You can see here it does not slide or anything like that. It is an incredibly secure knot, and it should look roughly like this. The easiest way to know if you've done it correctly is if you can see those 2 lines there are running next to each other. So this has been the bowline. The next knot I will show you is the taut line hitch. This is another very simple knot. It has an advantage to the bowline in the sense that you can run it along to tighten something. So we'll need a bit of slack. So this is your loop here that you'd have tied around something. Here's your line. You'll wrap it up around this way twice. And then from there, you will come back over here around the back. So you'll look like this. That's both sides. You just wrapped around twice. Up through your loop. And then tuck it back down in that loop you just made by coming over. And you just want to pull that tight. This is not, again, the world's best bowline. Or not bowline, this is a taut line head, excuse me. And if that was tighter, you could see it slide back and forth to tighten things. It should look more like this in theory, but this rope is very good for the other two knots, not so great for this knot. So, today I have taught you 3 knots. I have taught you the square knot, I have taught you the bowline, and I have taught you the taut line hitch. Those are 3 knots. You can use them in your everyday life. I use those more often than any other knot. But essentially, I would leave you with the thought of, if you have a problem that you think you can solve with knots, I would encourage you to go out and Google, essentially, knot to solve X problem. From there, I am absolutely confident that you can find a knot that suits whatever task you're up to, even better than the ones I've showed you here today. And then I will leave you with the concluding thought of, I would encourage you to keep these 3 knots in mind, so that way when you have problems, you can tie them up before they come undone. Thank you.